The dawn broke over East Anglia not with the song of birds but with the coughing, sputtering roar of Wright R. 1820 Cyclone engines coming to life, a mechanical symphony that shook the very ground of the English countryside in 1943. This was the overture to the daily crusade of the 8th Air Force, a ritual of fire and ice where 10 young men packed themselves into the aluminum skin of the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, ascending into a realm of sub-zero temperatures and lethal shrapnel. To understand the evolution of American bombing is to start here, in the freezing fuselage of a plane that was less a machine and more a philosophy of war manifested in metal. The B-17 was designed in an era when the solution to air defense was simply to bristle with enough .50 caliber machine guns to blot out the sun, a flying fortress intended to fight its way to a target, drop its payload with mathematical precision, and fight its way home. It was a weapon of mass industrial warfare, built by the thousands, crewed by the tens of thousands, and sacrificed in numbers that would be unfathomable to the modern military planner. In stark contrast, the 21st century introduces the Northrop Grumman B-21 Raider, a phantom born not of mass production lines but of digital engineering and advanced material science. Where the B-17 roared, the B-21 whispers, a flying wing designed to slip through the cracks of enemy radar like a ghost. It does not fight its way to the target with blazing guns, it exists in the negative spaces of the battle space, unseen and untouched. The evolution from the Flying Fortress to the Raider is not merely a story of better engines or smarter bombs, it is a fundamental transformation in the concept of power projection. It shifts from the doctrine of attrition, where victory is bought with the blood of crews and the sheer weight of explosives, to the doctrine of dominance through invisibility and information superiority. The B-17 was a bludgeon, a heavy hammer swung with tremendous effort. The B-21 is a scalpel, guided by artificial intelligence and shielded by physics-defying stealth, capable of dismantling an adversary's strategic nervous system before they even know the war has begun. The visceral experience of the B-17 crewman defines the courage of the greatest generation. On missions like the disastrous Schweinfurt-Regensburg raid of August 1943, the reality of daylight precision bombing was laid bare. As the formations crossed the enemy coast, they were met not by silence but by a carpet of flak, so thick that pilots joked they could walk on it. But there was no humor in the shrapnel that tore through unpressurized cabins, instantly freezing blood and severing oxygen lines. A B-17 crew member was a technician of survival. The bombardier hunched over the Norden bomb site, a device so secret it was guarded with a pistol, trying to calculate wind drift and ballistics while the aircraft bucked violently from exploding shells. The waist gunners stood on floors slick with spent casings, wrestling heavy machine guns against the slipstream, their electric-heated suits the only barrier between them and frostbite that could claim fingers in minutes. This was a war of physical endurance as much as aerial combat. The B-17 was rugged, legendary for returning to base with entire sections of its tail missing, engines on fire, and wings shredded like lace. It absorbed punishment that defied aerodynamics, a testament to the Boeing engineers who over-engineered every spar and rib. Yet, the cost was horrific. During Big Week in early 1944, the relentless assault on the German aircraft industry, the 8th Air Force lost hundreds of bombers. Each loss meant 10 empty bunks in a Nissen hut that evening, 10 letters home, and 10 voids in the tight-knit fabric of the squadron. The B-17's war was a numbers game. If you put enough bombers in the air, overlapping their defensive fire in combat boxes, some would get through. It was a brutal calculus where the bomber was an expendable asset, and the courage of the crew was the variable that made the machine effective. Fast forward 80 years, and the calculus has inverted. The B-21 Raider represents an asset so valuable and technologically complex that expendability is no longer in the vocabulary. The Raider is the first, sixth-generation aircraft, a designation that moves beyond just stealth. While the B-17 was a standalone gladiator, the B-21 is a node in a vast, interconnected digital web. It is designed with an open systems architecture, allowing it to be upgraded with software patches as easily as a smartphone, ensuring that it never becomes obsolete in the face of evolving threats. Its crew, if it even carries one, as the aircraft is optionally manned, sits in a cockpit that resembles a spaceship command deck more than a bomber. The physical struggle of the B-17, the wrestling with yokes and the screaming over intercoms, is replaced by the quiet hum of avionics and the glow of multifunction displays fusing data from satellites, drones, and ground sensors. The strategic role of the bomber has also shifted shifted from carpet bombing to penetrating strike. The B-17's mission was often to level grid squares of industrial capability, ball-bearing factories, rail yards, oil refineries, relying on the sheer tonnage of unguided gravity bombs to ensure destruction. The B-21, however, is a sniper. It is built to penetrate the most sophisticated anti-access/area denial (A2/AD) bubbles in the world, airspace protected by surface-to-air missile batteries that can detect a bird from 100 miles away. The Raider defeats these not with armor, but with shape and materials. Its blended wing body, devoid of vertical stabilizers, scatters radar waves, while advanced composite skins absorb electromagnetic energy. It carries precision-guided munitions that can navigate down ventilation shafts or track moving targets, meaning a single B-21 can theoretically achieve what took 1,000 B-17s to accomplish in World War II. The B-17's battles were epic clashes of steel against steel. The skies over Germany were an arena where the Luftwaffe threw everything they had at the American formations, Messerschmitts, Focke-Wulfs, and even air-to-air rockets. The B-17 crews fought back with turrets, creating a porcupine of defense. In contrast, the B-21's battle begins long before any kinetic weapon is fired. It engages in the electromagnetic spectrum, using onboard electronic warfare suites to jam, spoof, and deceive enemy sensors. If a B-21 pilot is doing their job, the enemy never sees them. The drama of the B-21 is not the cinematic explosion of a dogfight, but the high-stakes tension of a submarine movie, a silent run deep into hostile territory, where detection means death, and survival depends on remaining a ghost. The adversary is not a pilot looking through a gunsight, but a sophisticated algorithm scanning for radar anomalies. This evolution also reflects a change in the moral and political dimensions of warfare. The B-17 era accepted collateral damage as an unavoidable consequence of total war. The indiscriminate nature of dropping iron bombs from 25,000 feet through cloud cover meant that schools, churches, and homes often burned alongside factories. The B-21 operates in an era of strict rules of engagement and legal oversight. Its raison d'etre is to hold specific, high-value targets at risk, command bunkers, mobile missile launchers, nuclear facilities, without leveling the city around them. It is a weapon of deterrence, a signal to potential adversaries that no bunker is deep enough and no airspace is secure enough to hide from American reach. The B-17 defeated Germany by destroying its capacity to wage war through attrition. The B-21 aims to deter conflict by making the prospect of fighting a losing proposition from the start. Technologically, the leap is staggering. The B-17 was a marvel of analog engineering, with cables, pulleys, and hydraulics. Its computer was the Norden bombsight, an analog computer of gears and gyros. The B-21 is a digital native. It was designed entirely in a virtual environment, with digital twins simulating every bolt and wire before a single part was manufactured. This digital thread allows for predictive maintenance, where the aircraft tells the ground crew what needs fixing before it breaks, a far cry from the B-17 crew chiefs who patched bullet holes with sheet metal and intuition. The B-21 skin is a sensor, its brain is an AI, and its weapon is data as much as it is explosives. It can act as a forward observer, gathering intelligence deep behind enemy lines and relaying it to other forces, a role the B-17 could never have conceived of as it plodded through the flak. Yet, despite the chasm in technology, a thread of continuity remains. Both aircraft represent the pinnacle of American industrial might in their respective times. The B-17 was the product of a nation that could outproduce the world, turning out bombers by the hour. The B-21 is the product of a nation that seeks to outthink the world, leveraging Silicon Valley innovation and aerospace dominance to create a platform that science fiction writers would envy. They both serve the same ultimate master, the strategic need to project power across oceans. The geography of war has not changed. The Atlantic and Pacific are still vast, and the need to strike a distant enemy remains a cornerstone of defense policy. The B-17 bridged that distance with fuel tanks and courage. The B-21 bridges it with efficiency and stealth. The crew experience, while physically different, shares the burden of the long haul. A B-17 mission could last 8 to 10 hours, a grueling marathon of noise and vibration. The B-21, capable of refueling in mid-air and loitering for extended periods, demands a different kind of endurance, mental vigilance. A B-21 pilot might fly for 20 hours or more, managing complex systems while fighting the biological clock. The terror of the B-17 was immediate and loud, the explosion of a flak shell, the scream of a diving fighter. The stress of the B-21 is cerebral. The silent threat of a surface-to-air missile lock, the complex management of fuel states and stealth profiles, the knowledge that you are a lone asset worth hundreds of millions of dollars, carrying a payload that could alter history. We must also consider the legacy of the bomber mafia, the tactical thinkers of the 1930s who championed the idea that the bomber would always get through. With the B-17, they were only partially right. The bombers got through, but at a terrible price that required long-range fighter escorts like the P-51 Mustang to mitigate. The B-21 vindicates this doctrine in a new way. It is designed to operate without escort, to be self-sufficient in the most hostile environments. It fulfills the ultimate dream of the air power theorist, an aircraft that can bypass the enemy's army and navy to strike directly at the heart of their power, with impunity. The B-17 required an armada. The B-21 is a solitary assassin. The B-17 also carries a romanticism that the B-21 likely never will. We have films, novels, and museums dedicated to the Memphis Belle and the Divine Wind. The nose art, the leather jackets, the camaraderie of the 10-man crew, these are cultural touchstones. The B-21, shrouded in secrecy, essentially a flying computer, lacks that human texture. It is a sterile, efficient instrument of statecraft. You cannot paint a pin-up girl on a radar-absorbent coating without compromising its stealth. The B-17 was a character in the drama of World War II. The B-21 is a plot device in the silent, shadow wars of the future. But perhaps that is the point. The B-17 was a weapon for a war that engulfed the world in flames. The B-21 is a weapon designed to ensure such a war never happens again, or if it does, that it is decided quickly and decisively. In the end, placing the B-17 Flying Fortress next to the B-21 Raider is like placing a broadsword next to a laser. One is heavy, brutal, and relies on the strength of the wielder. The other is precise, sophisticated, and relies on the technology of the beam. But both are forged for the same purpose, to protect the nation that built them. The B-17 saved civilization by destroying the war machine of tyranny through brute force and sacrifice. The B-21 protects civilization by posing a threat so silent and unstoppable that no tyrant dares to test it. The evolution of American bombing is not just a history of aircraft, it is a history of the American approach to conflict, learning from the blood-soaked skies of Europe that the best way to win a war is to possess the technology to end it before the first engine starts. The roar of the Cyclone engines has faded into history, replaced by the silent vigil of the flying wing, but the mission remains eternal: to hold the high ground.